Good morning, everybody. My name is Marcelo Savo. I'm going to present you about some characteristics and features of upward leaders and the lightning attachment process in common buildings, not tall buildings, but common buildings. So here we know that lightning is formed by leaders, and these very leaders, they do characterize positive flashes and negative flashes, and they are very different from one another because leaders have positive leaders and negative leaders have different propagation, different speeds, they behave differently in terms of branching, etc. And also the observation of lightning attachment to structures on the ground let us understand how the downward propagating leaders and negative cloud to ground or positive emanating from structures on the ground, they behave, we can see how they behave differently, and this shines some light on several aspects of lightning physics. For that, we use high-speed cameras. We use current sensors to measure the current of these upward propagating leaders. So they have electric field antennas there on top of these buildings to understand better what's going on. We're gonna present you 6 cases: A, B, C, D, E, F. A, B, C, D are all occurred. They all occurred in these twin buildings in São Paulo. The case E and F in 2 different buildings in São José dos Campos, where my institute is and where I live. Okay, the first case we have here is a downward negative flash with a peak current of -17. We can see 2 upward connecting leaders, 2 upward leaders emanate from these buildings. One of them connect, the other not. Case B is this one, same building. We see again upward connecting leaders and unconnected upward leaders. This is another case, case C, and from all these cases we published already a paper on geophysical research letters, which is about the lightning attachment process to common buildings. Basically, we describe how far the upward leaders can reach, their speed, the speed of the downward leader, and the relationship between these speeds and some other features. Then we have case D, also occurring on a lightning rod of one of these twin buildings. But at that time, we had already installed current sensors on both buildings, lightning rods, vertical masts. So we managed to record not only the speed and the length of these upward connecting leaders, but also the current involved and also the electric field. This is already published too in JGR, upward leaders initiation from instrumented lightning rods. This paper is very recent. It was published in March this year. Okay, so this is basically what this paper describes, how the E field varies when you have upward leaders trying to connect to the downward leader. Then we have case E, which is a very close image of a downward lightning, a negative lightning, inducing many upward leaders. And case F, which is even closer. And this image, I think you may have already seen it because it was spread like fire in many newspapers around the world, in many languages. This image shows really wonderful images of the upward connect leaders emerging from different buildings. This is This was also published in November 2022, and it's basically about the characteristics and features of these upward leaders. Okay, let's have a closer look at case D. And here you see the time from the return stroke, which is time 0, and you see in a very nice way how buildings start to respond to the downward leader, and they alternate. Some of them appear only once, some of them keep progressing. You may see some features here in the downward leader, which are called space stems. Here you see other buildings participating. This is interesting. The upward leader splits in two. This is all a balance is driven by the downward branches that induce differently. You can see here the inclination of this upward leader. It moves towards this main branch. This one moves towards this one. This one splits between these two. It seems to be driven by two forces here. And you may see negative streamers at the tip of the downward leader. You may see also positive streamers here. Then you have the final jump and returns. Case F is very interesting because it's an even closer lightning flash, also inducing upward leaders we counted more than 30 buildings participating and trying to connect to the downward leader, launching upward leaders towards the downward one. So here you see the left branch of the downward leader, and you can see also the corona at the tip of the positive leader. See other buildings participating, and now you see the right side of the branch of the downward leader, and eventually they will connect. So these two video files, case E and F, that we recorded, they were recorded by a phantom camera B2012 running at 40,000 frames per second. This is the return stroke. This is 2 milliseconds after the return stroke. You see that the lightning flash attached to this building, not to this one. And very interesting to know that it didn't attach to the lightning rod system. Instead, the lightning struck the tip of the chimney of a pizza oven. So if we summarize all the cases we presented here, and all these cases occurred in buildings that are extremely common in cities. So let's start with the striking distance. By striking distance here, we name the separation between the tip of the step the leader and the tip of the grounded structure when a stable upward connecting leader is initiated from the tip of the structure. And if we take all cases, we see the striking distance varies between 40 meters, about 40 meters to 130 meters. And if we take a model, like Love's model, to estimate the striking distance, we will see that in almost all striking distance values given by the models are underestimated. And we also see that striking distance tend to be longer when the peak current is higher. In terms of 2D speed and speed ratios, for all cases, we have a downward speed that's almost constant and an upward leader movement that has also quasi steady constant speed. We have here the values of the speed, downward speed and upward leader speed. And we see that always the downward speed is higher than the speed of the upward leaders. If we take the ratio between the downward leader speed to the upward connecting leader speed, we'll see that this ratio varies between 2 and 8, having an average of almost 4. We can also observe in a few cases what we would say it's the final jump, and the final jump speed is much higher than the upward leader speed. So it also seems that somehow the positive leader accelerates and makes the final jump. From current measurements, we can tell you something about the current involved in these upward leaders. We see leader A and B here. Leader A is the red one. It doesn't connect, so it's number 5 in this image. Leader B, the black curve here, is number 2 here, which do connect to the downward leader. See this, this is current in hundreds of amperes, positive and negative. Negative, how can a current be negative? It's due to the fact that number 5, as it didn't connect to the downward leader, it collapses and reverses the polarity of the current. All that field, that's very intense field, disappears. So we have a reverse of the current. The unconnected leader reverses and can produce a very intense flow of charge, which can give currents up to hundreds of amperes. In this case, you see that multiple pulses occur from the lightning rods during the approach of the downward leader. See red pulses alternating with black pulses, one leader alternates. So it's kind of, let's say, a competition between these two leaders trying to connect the one that's coming from above, and they pulse alternately. But when the downward leader comes very close to the buildings, then they start to synchronize and pulse together, as you can see here. These peak currents of these leaders, they can range from few amperes to hundreds. And there is also, if you look closer, there is also a DC component of the leader current that increases with the approach of the descending. And these upward leaders, they synchronize with the steps we see here in the E field. So we conclude that these upward leaders are induced by the electric field change produced by the step of the leader. And the time between these pulses in the electric field matches with the average time between the current pulses. The space stems are formed in the region occupied previously by the streamer. Here's one case. And as I told you before, you can see streamers emanating from both tips of the space leaders. Upward leaders are usually not branched. There's only one case, which I've shown you, of an upward branched leader. And the length of the corona brush that appears at the tip of the upward leader usually gets longer as the distance between the downward leader and the upward leader diminishes. The corona brush is in the frame right before the attachment. Also mentioned, is not uniform, but it presents a streamer-like pattern. And As you saw in one of the videos, well, it was the rightmost downward leader branch that connects to the longest upward leader. And it seems that the middle branch is stalled, as several space stems were formed along the regions previously ionized by the streamers. Thank you. This is all I had to say about upward and downward leaders and attachment process. If you have any questions, I'm pleased to answer.